Hello, welcome to another episode of the Euro 2020 show. This will be a review of the tournament. Now, Euro 2020 is nearly a week past us. A week on from that crushing defeat for England. But yeah, I think we've had a few days now to get over it, haven't we? So it's time to talk about Euro 2020. As you can see, Mark's joining me again this evening from Germany to get the German perspective and also his English eyes on the tournament. Let's dive straight into it. We'll start by recapping the disastrous night at Wembley where England fell in the penalty shootout to an Italian side. Mark, do you think the result was a just one on the night, and do you think Italy were worthy winners in the end?
Yeah, I would say probably, in the end, yeah. But I think probably the first 30 minutes, I thought England were just amazing in that first 30 minutes. I was genuinely thinking, we're going to win this quite comfortably, to be honest with you. Because obviously we got the goal after, 2 minutes or even a little bit less than 2 minutes, which was an amazing goal, by the way. To be honest, I was a little bit surprised that, at least in Germany, the goal didn't get as much credit as I thought it was worth, really. It was a great passing move from the back. Obviously, Trippier swinging a great ball in, and then Shaw smashing it in for his first goal of what was an excellent tournament for him, Then I thought we were excellent again for the next probably 25 minutes after that until around 35 minutes. I thought we played a lot of good football. We didn't really create many chances because obviously we know the Italian defence is really strong, don't we? I mean, they were probably the best defence in the tournament. They always are one of the best defences out there, aren't they? But I think we played a lot of good football. We had them on the back foot. We had them running around. I thought, we're going to tire them out by the second half here and we might be able to get another goal or two. But then I think the end of the first half, things started to change a little bit, didn't they? I thought, Italy got a couple of hard chances just before half time and you're thinking, they're not out of it. Well, you never thought they were out of it, but you were thinking, they could easily get level quite early on in the second half here. And that's obviously, they didn't get back level early. It was 67, 80 minutes, 70 minutes, roughly the goal, round about the kind of the halfway point of the second half. And then, by that point, Italy definitely deserved to be level. I think Pickford had made a few good saves. Quite a lot of good defending on the England part from Maguire in particular as well to block a few shots. But yeah, I think after that, I guess the talking points are probably the Chiellini pull on Saka. A lot of people thought that should have been a red card. And who knows what would have happened if Saka did have a clear run on goal there. He could easily have brought it home in the last minute. Then obviously the Jorginho tackle as well on Grealish. Both of them could easily have been red cards on another day. So I guess that's the counter argument, really.
Yeah, I think the Chiellini one, I think just because of where it was on the pitch, even though it was a disgraceful piece of play from Chiellini, and there's no place in football that's in my book, but the Jorginho one on Grealish was reckless. He had no control of the tackle. He went in, stood showing, and endangered his opponents. I think for me, that one, it was a red card. Well, it should have been a red card for Jorginho. The Chiellini one, I can get why it was a yellow. But yeah, in terms of the game overall, I think Pearson, I don't want to say England gifted it to Italy, but I think it's a case of England had the game there for the taking up until the 30-minute mark. And for some reason, it was a comment I made during the game, countless times during the second half as well. It's been a theme of England's throughout the whole tournament, especially the Croatia game and the Czech Republic game, the group stages. For some reason, as soon as we go 1-0 up against opposition that are stronger, and I know that kind of throws out the point, when we beat Ukraine 4-0, but for some reason, we seem to lose all intensity. As soon as we go 1-0 up, and we've, I believe, about 25-30 minutes, we just seem to massively drop off. And it was so frustrating because I think if we'd have took that game, carried on taking the game to Italy, we could have been 2 or 3-0 up by the time the Italians got into the game. But for some reason, it's just been a continuous theme throughout the whole tournament. I just really don't get it. Would you agree with that, Matt? It's more a case of England just continue to drop off in games?
Yeah, definitely. And I think a big amount of that does have to go to Southgate. At the end of the day, I think I mentioned before on the show that Southgate is fundamentally a defence-minded coach, And I think, you definitely saw that as the game went on, we went deeper and deeper and deeper. And for me, I think me and Dave both said in the analysis before the game, we needed the early goal, which we got. And we were looking brilliant. I was just thinking it's exactly how me and Dave said the game needed to go. We really got on the front foot. We were battering them earlier on. And I thought Italy just didn't even get out of first gear for the first 30 minutes. But yeah, I agree. We had to get that second goal. And I think if we'd have got that second goal, which we had chances, I mean, Sterling had the ball in a few good positions, didn't he? I didn't think Sterling had the best game in the final at all, to be honest with you. I thought he could have been the difference potentially if he was a bit less ball greedy at times. He had a few chances to pass and instead he decided to take it alone. But if we could have got that goal, I think we'd have won comfortably. I really do, to be honest with you, because then we could have probably dropped a little bit back deeper and probably just defended it out after that at 2-0, you know. But at 1-0, you can never do that. And I agree. I think ultimately that's probably what cost us, you know. Whether that was Southgate saying, you know, if you defend against these guys, they're not going to have the quality to break you down. It could have been that. Or whether it was just the player's mindset, you know, thinking, you know, we've got something to hang on to. We've got a good defence. Maybe we can just sit back. But yeah, Italy have got too much quality. And obviously Chiesa was brilliant in the final. He was probably my man of the match really in the final. He got injured just before the extra time, which was good really for England. And England were able to turn the tide a bit in extra time. I thought England had a couple of half chances in the extra time. But yeah, I think ultimately that is what cost us. You know, we could have gone on and finished the game in that first 30 minutes. But unfortunately, due to a bit of kind of a bad final ball, we couldn't quite do it. And then the second half was extremely poor, I thought, really, from England.
Yeah, you made a good point about Sterling. I think it was arguably his worst game of the tournament, and the service into Kane. I think Kane was all. Kane did have a good game, but he continuously again had to continue to drop deep. And in the first half, it was working a treat because Chiellini and Nucci didn't have an answer to it. The man there meant to be marking out the games continues to drop in deep to get the ball, and Kane was doing some great things with it. But yeah, I think the service in the second half, I think Kane became isolated. Sterling didn't have room on the ball to make things happen. Like I said, Chiesa was starting to run the show, weren't he? And I was very relieved to see him go off in that second half. And obviously the ball quality in Bernardeschi as well, who's not a bad player in his own right, but Chiesa has had a fantastic tournament for Italy, and he's been an absolute credit to that Italian team. In terms of that final as well, then Mark, is it filled with optimism for this England squad moving forward? Because it's still a really young squad. We've got the World Cup in 2022, so it's the future bright for England.
Yeah, I definitely think the future's bright. It's definitely the brightest it's been in our lifetimes, Dave. I think we can safely say that. You know, we made the semi-final of the World Cup, the World Cup, obviously losing in extra time. We lost the final on penalties, you know. But I still think there are things we can work on, definitely. You know, we need to learn how to keep the ball better in midfield. Like you saw the Italians, and they can do that so easily, you know, and all the best European teams can, really. You know, the Spanish, the Italians, the Germans, the French. I think they can keep it a lot better than we can. I think the England team is largely based on pace and like individual brilliance, really, at times, you know, where rather than kind of possession-based football. I think obviously Italy had like 62% possession in the final, which is obviously when you consider that Italy only had 30% against Spain in the semi-final, it tells you a lot about England's ball-keeping skills at times, really, doesn't it? I mean, to be honest, I don't really know whether it's the England style to keep the ball, but I would like to see more of Phil Foden, personally. I mean, for me, he came into the tournament and I thought he was going to be the England's man for this tournament. I really did. And he didn't do that well in the first two games, but not badly enough to be dropped for the entire rest of the tournament for me. And obviously, I think he did take a knock in the build-up to the final, but for me, he should have been more of a prolific figure in that squad. I didn't think Mason Mount had the best tournament, to be honest with you, and I would have liked to have seen Foden replace him maybe for the semi-final. But I think there's so many good players in that side, you know. I mean, we've got guys like Reece James coming through, Chilwell. I'd like to see more of them as well, because I think they probably provide a bit more of an attacking threat from the fullbacks. Although I did think Walker and Shaw had great tournaments, but obviously they are a little bit older than the other two. But yeah, there's a lot of reason to think that this is going to be a golden period for the England team, and just hopefully one day we can get over the line and win a tournament.
Yeah, one thing you missed out, Mark, as well was the prestigious semi-final of the Nations League as well. Don't forget that glorious summer in Portugal.
Where we got battered to Holland.
Yeah, against a bang average Holland side as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the point you made about the phone was a bit harsh. I think obviously Southgate's logic for dropping in for that third game was that yellow card he wanted to be missing for the knockouts, but Saka came in, took his chance, and it made it very difficult for him to be dropped. So I can kind of see why Foden can get back in, but personally, I'd have liked to have seen him play a lot more. And then, obviously, the final that foot injury was a little bit too much to overcome. we'll come to some of the comments. I had a few comments coming about the England game as we've been going. First one from Gary. I think there's two incidents which could have gone differently. Like you said, Chiellini and Jorginho, different game there, called England's favour. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think with the Chiellini one, I think that'd have been a bigger miss than the Jorginho one, because I think that'd have opened up a big hole in that Italian defence. So if Chiellini would have gone, I think that would have really tipped the scales in England's favour. Dan Green, hi lads, wasn't confident before the final, but that Shaw goal got me excited. I was in tears in the end, should not bear but to get excited. I think that is pretty much all our feelings on that, Dan. I weren't feeling all that confident going to the final. I think when the national anthem started, I think I started to feel a little bit more optimistic, and when the Shaw goal went in, that kind of went through the roof. And yeah, as soon as that Bonucci goal went in, I think we all saw what was coming. And as soon as it got to the penalties, even when we went in front after that first penalty was missed, I think even then I weren't confident, especially England in penalties. A couple more comments and we'll move on to the next part of the show. Dan, it could have been different, like you said, than Tuesdays have gone England's way. It was a game of two halves. England brilliant in the first, didn't capitalise. Yeah, I think obviously me and Mark had touched on that. I think case of the dropping in intensity really didn't help. And then obviously the Italians finally got a foothold in the game as well. Gary, case was fantastic. Shane's going to be at Juve. He could do better elsewhere where he'll get more minutes. He's part of that, the whole Ronaldo showing here at Juventus. And obviously when you're playing alongside the GOAT, it's going to be very difficult to get the minutes into it. And then Dan again. Shane Foden's struggling injury because he could have been the difference in the final. Yeah, 100% agree, Dan. I think Foden to be a massive player for England moving forward with that one. Chris Saunders, even Chris, Lyle still hurting from Sunday. It could have been so sweet, it was nearly complete. So, nice 3 lines of reference there. I'm kind of glad I'm sick of it. Well, I don't want to say I was sick of it, it's coming on, but it has been nice to go nearly like 6 days without hearing the words, it's coming home. So, it still hurts, doesn't it? But obviously, we've got the World Cup to look forward to next year. John, Dave trying to bait us again the CR7 GOAT comment. As soon as, if I know Paul's watching at any point, I'll start wheeling him out every other session. Obviously, Paul's very much in the Messi camp, isn't he? We'll move on to the rest of the tournament as a whole, Mark. So, obviously, it's a bit of a broad question when I put this to you, but overall, how happy were you with the tournament as a whole? Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, I thought it was a brilliant tournament, to be honest. Yeah, really. I mean, I always enjoy these international tournaments. I mean, obviously, as a football fan, it's like something of a festival, really, isn't it? Like games every day, 3 games. I always enjoy the group stages, like tons of games every day, like match after match, you know. And obviously, getting the knockouts where it gets a little bit more nervy, especially from an England perspective. But yeah, I mean, I think it always helps the fact that England have gone deep into the tournament as well, because I mean, we've had so many disappointments, like in the group stage, in the last 16, you know. And I think when that happens, like the kind of quarterfinals onwards feels a little bit hollow, if you know what I mean, you know, because England aren't involved with it. I mean, I still enjoy those tournaments, but it's always better when England are involved. And I think, yeah, there were a lot of quality matches, especially that night. I think it was like the last 16 game when there was the France 3, Switzerland 3, and then Switzerland won on penalties. And there was the Croatia 3, Spain 5. I mean, that was like a legendary night of football, really, wasn't it? Like both games were just insane, you know. It was obviously a lot of good games as well, a few shocks as well, the likes of Ukraine going to the quarterfinal, Denmark making the semi-final, Czech Republic making the quarterfinal and having a great tournament as well. I think it had a bit of everything, really, you know. I think the best 2 teams definitely made the final for me as well. But I think, probably just about the Italians over the tournament, I would say, did deserve to win it. You know, they had a bit of everything, like flair and attack in the group stage and against Belgium, and then like obviously 2, you would say, like relatively strong defensive performances against the Spanish and obviously England. Yeah, I thought it was a great tournament. And as I think Chris says as well, North Macedonia, Finland getting in there as well. Like, it's great to see new teams. Obviously, we talked about it early in the tournament. Like, maybe it's not so good to have 24 teams because it's like a number that doesn't break down automatically. You know, you have to have the 3rd place teams. But for me personally, I think it was definitely better than Euro 2016 anyway. I mean, I thought Euro 2016 was quite a poor tournament overall, but this was really, really good tournament overall, I thought. Great to see fans in the stadium as well. I like the fact that a lot of teams had home fans behind them, like the Hungarians, the Danish. They had great fans in the group stage as well. So yeah, there were a lot of really, really good points of this tournament.
Yeah, so in terms of that 24 teams and 16, I think obviously it's great because it gives other countries the platform to really go show you can do. But like some of the performances, like and some of the players on show, it wasn't what you call like top end football, which is like I think once you got past the last 16, you got rid of like players from the farmers leagues, like the French league and the Bundesliga.
Come on.
Once you got rid of the farmers league players, and you get down to the proper football, I think that from the quarterfinals onwards, it was a quality tournament. But yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. Like you said, Euro 16 was a very poor showing, especially considering I think that was the tour England had that embarrassing defeat to Iceland, weren't it? And so I can still recall. Say, I'm sure you've seen the video clip, Mark, can't you? Steve McLaren on Sky Sports, like talking about how England were dominating the game and we went 2-1 down within 10 seconds.
Yeah. I think Hodgson was England's worst ever coach for me, I've got to say. I mean, I like the bloke in general, but he was an absolutely atrocious manager for England, Hodgson, really. Like, we had our worst days under Hodgson, yeah. I'm just so glad those days are finished. And, yeah, Southgate, you're the one, as you say.
Yeah, I think when you look at the coaches, I think, like, when you look at Hodgson's coaching staff, weren't that Steve Wigley involved as well? Yeah. That kind of sums up that tournament, and yeah, I think anything else is probably best forgotten about that tournament. But yeah, the level of football at times in this tournament was fantastic, and it was great to see. So if you had to pick one standout game, Mark, from the tournament, what would you go with?
Yeah, to be honest, I'd probably go with the Croatia 3, Spain 5 game. Yeah, I was actually watching that. I was on holiday in Italy for that game, and I watched it in a bar with a load of Spanish guys. And the atmosphere was just amazing, you know. Like, I was kind of supporting Croatia to wind them up a little bit, you know. So I was celebrating when it got back to 3-3, and then the Spanish were like really rubbing it in when they got those goals in extra time. I thought it wasn't only a great game, but like both teams had tons of chances in that. And then, like, even better, the game after it was France, Switzerland, and that was just amazing as well. It's got to be that night in general for me. It has to be the night of the tournament and the 2 games of the tournament, really, I would say.
Yeah, it's a great games. I think from like my personal point of view, I think mainly because England end up winning both the games. Mine are a toss up between the England-Germany game just because of the occasion, and then obviously the semi-final against Denmark because the atmosphere of that game was incredible. Yeah. And as soon as we went 1-0 up, it was fantastic. And obviously to get the win extra time, it was just absolutely incredible. So they're my 2 favourites anyway. Goal of the tournament there, Mark. So I think we've kind of discussed contenders previously, but what would be your goal of the tournament and what other contenders would you have in there?
Yeah, I mean, I think the generic one is obviously Schick in there. I mean, yeah, it was a great goal, but you've got to question Marshall, the former Wigan legend as well, David Marshall there, really. I mean, he was well out of position one. It's still a great effort, but I mean, yeah, if the keeper was anywhere near where he should have been, it wouldn't have gone in. So that has to be better, man. I also thought Chiesa's goal in the semi was really good against Spain. I mean, considering like he had to turn and then smash the shot past the keeper, I thought that was a great goal as well. I also thought a couple of the Italy goals in the semi-final as well were really good too. I think it was Insigne. That was a really, really good strike. The second goal, Italian goal against Belgium, was a great goal as well. Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think England's goal in the final as well. I mean, for me, that was one of the goals of the tournament because if you consider the timing of it in the final, you know, it's the best goal I can remember in a final of any tournament for a long time. I thought it was a brilliant team move from front to back, you know. And obviously, I think England's first goal against Germany as well was a great team move as well. Sterling's first goal, and even the second one was a good goal as well, really. So, you know.
Yeah, I think when people have been talking about goal, I don't think Kyle Walker really gets the credit he deserves for his part in that goal. Because if you watch his run, when he does the overlap on Trippier, he takes 2 Italian defenders with him. That creates a space for the cross. So I think a lot of praise should go to Walker for his involvement in that goal, and he hasn't really been getting that. But yeah, in terms of like my content, I think I was watching the BBC's coverage of the final. I think they gave goal of the tournament to Pogba's goal against Switzerland, which it's a good goal, but it's goals that you I don't say commonly see at a tournament, but
Yeah.
It wasn't one where I'd be like, well, that's goal of the tournament. Again, Shix has got to be a contender just for the sheer audacity to even shoot from there. With him being a farmer in a farmers league, I don't think he meant it. He probably meant that as a pass, but it somehow ended up going in the net. For me, I think another goal that I want to mention is Modric's goal against Scotland. The technique of that goal, like outside the foot to bend it for it to come back into the far post, was an absolutely incredible strike. And I think the technique of that goal really needs to be applauded and something that should be talked about a bit more. And so if you're going to show kids how to strike a ball the outside of the foot, just play that goal on repeat.
Yeah.
Anyway, just before we go like deeper into the tournament as a whole, there's a couple of comments just to cover. So one from Gary, I agree because really enjoy to see them sides go for it. North Macedonia has some great players, including the legend Pandev. Yeah, so it was like it's not something you'll see very often in North Macedonia tournament. And obviously, Pandev retired from international football after that, so it was a good way for him to go out as well. First time I've seen Finland at a major tournament, so it's been a great bit of exposure for some of the lesser sides within Europe to really showcase their talents. Dan Green. Some great games. Really enjoyed the tournament. It's what we need after a year lockdown. Also, shout out to you over the bar lads for the coverage you provided, both the videos and the more articles. Cheers, Dan. So it's been a fantastic tournament. So I've really enjoyed doing the videos. It's a very testing time. I know Paul's worked really hard on the more articles. I think Mark's been a constant on the Euro 2020 shows. It's been a great tournament for us to really like take our mind off things and to really get involved with the football again. And also, we've got live football coming back out with it, especially in the UK. I know, Mark, you're going to have to hang fire a little bit longer to go watch some live football again. But I've got my first live game in 18 months tomorrow at Rochdale, and I think I might be doing a bit of a video blog for that because I'm really looking forward to it and I really want to document the day. So, so we'll have a video of my day at the Dale tomorrow next week. Next comment from Matteo. All our lads, I will ask you a question about Spain tonight, as I've asked so many during the tournament. Well, thanks for all your coverage. It's been so enjoyable for my English. Cheers, Matteo. It's like really nice comments. I'm like, if there's one positive to come out of doing these videos, it's like helping someone like developing their English. It's like quite a cool thing to be a part of. So keep up the good work on that. Gary, Walker's immense for England, very underrated. Yeah, I think Walker gets a lot of unfair stick. He has the odd mistake in him, but what defender doesn't? And I think Walker does deserve a bit more respect than that. Matteo, the goal by Schick against Scotland was very good. So were the goals in the Spain-Croatia game, and that was 5-3. Yeah, it was a cracking goal. But and then this is the point that I think I made last week, Mark, weren't it, about Pogba? Pogba's goal was too spoiled with arrogant celebrating. Like I said, I think when they've done like a video count of how many times he celebrated that goal, it was like four or five different celebrations. It was absolutely pathetic, I thought. So like celebrating a manner like that, I thought was an absolute so disrespectful to Switzerland personally. But that just kind of sums up the kind of character that Pogba is, like classless personally. But Matteo, by football match trip, I'm jealous, David. Yeah, it's only a pre-season friendly against Little Fleetwood Town, but yeah, it'll be nice to go back to my spiritual home of the Crown Oil Arena, and I'm looking forward to it.
La vida loca, as they would say in Spanish.
And Ben Morrissey, chat's great coverage so far. Looking forward to today's video, Giant Rochdale. That sounds interesting. Yeah, I'm pretty certain I'm going to do it. I'm like 95% certain I'm going to do the video. I've bought like a little camera stand thing for my phone, so I've got the equipment to do it. It's just a matter of how I feel on the day, but I'm 95% certain I'm going to do it. And last comment by Dan Green before we get back into the tournament. Looking forward to the video of your trip to Scotland, Dave, and I'm a Fleetwood fan, don't forget. Yeah, I'll probably best not use the term Little Fleetwood then, I'd have, but so I'm really looking forward to it. I think obviously Callum Campbell will be back at Rochdale, so yeah, that'd be nice to welcome him back. Obviously, Dale is a Dale lad in it, so be interested to see him play again. Obviously, we've got our new manager, so I'll be interested to see how we set up tomorrow under him. Right, so just a couple more summary points, Mark, about the tournament, and we'll dive into our team of the tournament and then take the questions. But is there any standout players that come to mind? So obviously we've had Donnarumma win the Player of the Tournament, but is there anyone that you feel like should be given an honourable mention?
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously, England have got a lot of standout performances in the tournament. I thought, Rice and Phillips were both amazing in the tournament. I thought they were two of the big positives. Maybe not quite enough to win the Player of the Tournament, but they deserve a mention, that's for sure. I thought, Walker and Shaw. I never thought I'd say with Luke Shaw because I never liked the bloke at all. I always thought he was like a poor excuse for a footballer before this tournament, to be honest. And I think I was saying all along, Dave, that I thought the guy was, he just doesn't look like a footballer to me, like he always looks a bit out of shape and stuff like that. But I mean, he had a great tournament, and if he can take that form into his time at United, he might go on to be to prove Mourinho wrong after all, But yeah, I thought he had a brilliant tournament. I think Italy had like a number. I thought Chiesa wasn't far off winning Player of the Tournament for me. I thought all of the big games, the quarter-final, semis, and final, I thought he was brilliant in all three of those games. Yeah, I thought, even like looking at Spain, I mean, I thought Pedri was brilliant as well. I thought he's going to be a really, really outstanding player in the future, Pedri. I think that was his last year was his first kind of major season at Barcelona. I thought he was just amazing for Spain. He's going to be like the future of that Spanish team, I think. And I think, yes, obviously Mateo is a Spanish fan. I think they've got a lot of a bright future ahead as well, really. Like they just need to find a striker, basically, Spain. But I think they've got a lot of good players as well there.
Yeah, I think the points made about Luke Shaw, you are starting to sound like Mourinho in disguise with some of them comments. I think the issue with Luke Shaw is it's just a natural frame. I don't think he could slim down anymore if he tried. That's just his natural physique. And I think he's got a long way to shut up Mourinho, which is always a good thing for Mourinho being quiet. So I'll happily take that any day of the week. Mourinho being quiet. But yeah, Calvin Phillips to me was an absolute revelation. I didn't really rate him that much going into this tournament, but an absolutely outstanding tournament he had. Jorginho was going to get a mention for myself, but after his shithouse antics in the final, I think he can kiss that one goodbye. But yeah, I think you covered most of them, Mark. I'd say we'll cover them more in a moment or two with the team of the tournament that we've put together. Last question before we move on to that, Mark. Is like obviously a lot of people fall in love with one team that a tournament's not their own. Is there any teams that you found yourself taking a fond liking to during the tournament you did at the start?
Yeah. I mean, I would say Denmark, but I've always liked Denmark. Obviously, I've always liked their style of football, the passion between the team. They have a lot of good characters like Kasper Schmeichel, Cha. They have a lot of Højbjerg. They have a lot of really, really good characters there, I think. But I would say, to be honest, I know it might sound cliche, but I would say the Italians. I really, really enjoyed this Italy team throughout the tournament. I think, obviously, I watched the first game when they battered Turkey, and I remember saying to myself, they'll win it. They will. They just looked outstanding. I think they've got some great characters in there. Obviously, Chiellini and Bonucci are massive characters as well as being great defenders as well. I think, I think I said to you guys, I said to the group we have for OTB, I said, if there was one team I don't mind losing it to in this tournament, it is Italy. I mean, obviously, I really, really wanted England to win. I'm gutted that they didn't. I was fuming on Sunday, probably Monday and Tuesday as well. But looking back, I think Italy, they have a lot of character in that side, a lot of likable characters in my eyes. And I like Mancini as well. So, yeah, I think, I don't mind them winning it.
Yeah, I think I agree with, in terms of Denmark one, like the one of them sides that you never have a dislike for. But I think after everything that happened, Ericsson, the way they reacted to it, and I think you couldn't help but fall in love with them as a nation and really want them to do well. I think we kind of discussed it before as well. I decided to have a bit of a soft spot for the Ukraine simply because of on the preview show I really taught them up, didn't I, of really getting far into the tournament, and then I happened to draw them in the sweepstakes at my work, and yeah, I felt like I really had to back Ukraine up until the point of anyway. But yeah. So I think we could sit here all night, Mark, come in and really talk about the tournament and probably do several videos on it, but we just want to offer you guys a bit of a brief review and what we thought of the tournament as a whole. But we are going to dive now into our team of the tournament. So this is over the bars team of the tournament. So it's the four editors, me, Mark, Paul, and the other David, who you might not have seen on videos before. But us four, we've kind of covered, we've basically put our 4 individual teams together, and the ones that have got the most mentions I've put together as an overall 11. So I'm going to put the team along the bottom now, and obviously if you want to let us know if you agree with it, and if there's anybody in there that you really disagree with, just let us know in the comments as we go through it. But yeah, it's coming along the bottom now. So we had Pickford, Walker, Chiellini, Kier, Spinazzola, Phillips, Pedri, Damsgaard, Chiesa, Schick, and Sterling. I think the only one that was kind of contentious was Schick, simply because I didn't want anyone from a Farmers League in the team. But yeah, he's put in there, so he's got his 5 goals, Danny. But yeah, that for me, I think it's a very solid team. Mark, where do you want? We'll start off with the keeper and defence. So I think you had a slightly different back four, didn't you? I think you also went with Donnarumma as well. So do you want to talk about what you think about that team that we've got there so far?
Yeah, I mean, it was a toss-up between two for goalkeeper of the tournament, Pickford or Donnarumma. But for me, Donnarumma just shaded it, really. He didn't make any mistakes throughout the tournament, as far as I can remember. I think my only question with Pickford was his performance in the semi-final. I didn't think he was great against Denmark with some of his kicking and distribution. The other 6 games, he was outstanding, I thought. Yeah, and we're really lucky to have a solid keeper at international level like Pickford. But I would just have gone. And obviously, the fact that he saved 2 penalties in the shootout. Obviously, Pickford also did. But I mean, it's still he saved the winning penalty, from Saka. So I mean, for me, he had to get it, and also just his general. I think he really gives confidence. I mean, he's only like 22, but you'd think he's like 35. Do you know what I mean? Like you'd never guess that he's only 22, Donnarumma. But great goalkeeper, and Italy definitely won't be needing a better keeper for the next 15 years or so, I wouldn't imagine. Yeah, for me, I went for Shaw actually, even though I've just slated him in general. But yeah, I went for Shaw. I just think for me, I'm not a fan of players being in the team of the tournament that didn't play in the latter stages, and obviously Spinazzola, for me, was probably the player of the tournament before the semi-final, but obviously he didn't play in the semis or the final. So for me, I think with Shaw having such a good tournament, I just think he nicks it for me with the fact that he played all the big games, all the knockout games, and I think he deserved it for me. I also went for Bonucci as well alongside Chiellini, because I just think that partnership is just absolutely amazing, isn't it? World class to the core, and I just think Chair had a great tournament. Obviously, he's a great leader with what he did with Ericsson as well. But for me, in talking purely football terms, it has to be Chiellini and Bonucci for me at that centre half partnership.
Yeah, I think obviously you've mentioned them there. I think Harry Maguire was in the conversation as well. He made it into UEFA's team of the tournament. I think he definitely made a huge difference to England as soon as he came into the squad. Yeah, it's a very tough one to call. And so there's a comment from Chris Saunders. There's a couple of names that have been. I think Paul had Gersons, and I think Mailer. I could be wrong, but both of them names were mentioned in our deliberations, and I was really tossing up between Walker and Mailer. But I think the contribution to the golden final give Walker the edge for me. It's how class that player was, but I think Paul was the only one to mention Gersons. I think mainly because Germany were largely disappointing and only got to the last 16, but obviously Spinazzola's made it, and he went out in the last 16 as well with that Achilles injury. But yeah, I think Mailer, in terms of our team, I think you guys put your 3 together before I put together a team. Obviously your 3 picks in mind, and then my team. But yeah, I think I give Walker the nod ahead of Mailer just on that basis. Moving on to the midfield, so we've got Calvin Phillips, Pedri, and Damsgaard. Would you agree with that 3, Mark?
Yeah, I also put Pedri and Damsgaard in there. I just thought Damsgaard was brilliant. I mean, I didn't even know him before the tournament. I was surprised to see he plays for Sampdoria in Italy, which is like kind of mid-table. I would imagine that teams are going to go in for him because I thought he had a brilliant tournament. He was a live wire in every single match. He was one of the main reasons why Denmark were able to play such an attacking and fluid style. He gets forward. He can pass the ball out wide. He can do just about everything. Obviously, he can take a free kick as well, as England found out. I think for me, I actually went for Rice ahead of Phillips. I think that was quite contentious. A lot of people were debating who was better for England, Rice or Phillips. But I actually thought Rice was a little bit better. I thought, especially again, I kind of judged a lot of my team on performances in the latter stages of the tournament. I think Phillips was better in the group stage, and possibly against Germany as well. But I thought in the quarters, semis, and final, Rice was definitely better for me. And I thought, especially in that semi-final and the final, I thought Rice was outstanding, to be honest with you. And that's why he got in my team ahead of Phillips. But yeah, Pedri, as I've said, he was one of my players of the tournament. I thought he was amazing. And Damsgaard, yeah, he was probably the young player of the tournament, really, along with Pedri, I would say.
Yeah, I think Pedri, and then obviously Sterling we'll talk about in a minute. I think he was the only person to get in all four of our teams. I think all four of us did pick him and Sterling. I think they were the only two that we all unanimously agreed on should be in there. I think Phillips, to me, I think the reason why he got it ahead of Rice, I thought Rice was absolutely insane during this whole tournament. And in that final, he threw his body everywhere until you could tell when he went off in that final, you could tell he had nothing more to give.
Yeah.
I think when a player goes off and you can see that they've given absolutely to the cause, you cannot give any complaints at all with regards to that. Obviously, Pedri, the performances speak for themselves. Another one of the Spanish conveyor belt in the central midfield. He's definitely got a long future in the game as well. Still fairly young, if I'm not mistaken. So, really looking forward to see how he comes on. And Damsgaard, like I said, Mark, Sampdoria is coming to this tournament as a relatively unknown player, and he's blown a lot of people away with his performances. And I think as that group stage went on, and then he just seems to get better and better and better with every passing game in that tournament. And I think there'll be a lot of people willing to take a gamble on him on the back of that tournament, because obviously he'd only be seen as a flash in the pan, but I think a lot of people will be willing to take that risk, especially if it's gone with COVID and financing football. It could be a bit of a bargain really to pick up from Sampdoria. And then at the front three, so we've got Chiesa, Schick and Sterling. Did you have anybody different in your three, Mark? Did you go with Lukaku, if I'm not mistaken?
No, I went with Benzema as the centre forward. I mean, to be honest, it was hard to pick the centre forward because I think, obviously, quite a lot of centre forwards had good tournaments. I mean, even Ronaldo was good, when he was in it. But obviously, he got 3 penalties, which kind of overshadows. I mean, it adds fuel to the fire that he is Penaldo after all, Yeah, but I mean, he had a good tournament in the games that he played, that's for sure. But I mean, for me, a player that doesn't go beyond the last 8, it's very difficult to put them in a team of the tournament beyond the last 16. But obviously I did put Benzema because I just thought he was absolutely brilliant, to be honest, in the games that he played. I mean, he was very, very, very unlucky to go out. I think obviously Mbappe, who everyone had down as being the cert for the player of the tournament, he was absolutely abysmal. He was down there for worst player of the tournament for me. He was probably the flop of the tournament. But I think Benzema carried the French team. Obviously a poor tournament for France. I mean, losing in the last 16 is absolutely not acceptable for them with that talent. But I mean, yeah, I think he was very good for me. But I think Schick, I think I said to you, Dave, before the show, I think Schick, obviously 5 goals is great. Obviously, I love the Bundesliga guys. I totally disagree with Dave saying it's a farmers league. Obviously, we want the best for the Bundesliga. But I just think after the great performance against Scotland, I thought his performance, he was a little bit peripheral, I thought, in some of the games. Obviously, he got another 3 goals after that, but I didn't think he was leading the line or he was world class or anything in the games after that Scotland one. That's why I didn't include him. Probably a little bit harsh not to include Schick, really. But yeah, for me, I would say Benzema was just a little bit better in the games that I saw. But to be honest, Kane could also have gone in there, really. Kane could also have been picked because he did have a good tournament as well, especially in the knockouts.
Yeah, I think if Kane would have had a slightly better group stage, I think it'd have been unanimous. Would have been putting Kane in there, but he didn't turn up until the Germany game, did he? And I think one point we're not really talking about them out was Sterling. If England would have gone to lift the trophy on Sunday, I am pretty certain Sterling would have won Player of the Tournament, given the performances he put in. Chiesa absolutely outstanding. I think if he's not getting more regular football at Juventus this season, it's an absolute crime against football. But obviously, he's got to find his way in front of the GOAT. Sterling, again, I think a lot of doubts were hanging over him going into the tournament. He's kind of proved them wrong. Going back to City. And then Schick, he'll go back to ploughing his fields during the week in Leverkusen. So, but yeah, just before we do dive further, so we'll compare it to the UEFA team of the tournament. So they went with Donnarumma, Walker, Bonucci, Maguire, Spinazzola, Pedri, Højbjerg, Jorginho, Sterling, Lukaku, and Chiesa. So for for the most part, it was quite similar, apart from the midfield, Højbjerg and Jorginho. So, how come you didn't include any of those two in your team, Mark? Is there any, or do you think their performances were up to the level of the ones we've already mentioned?
No, I was a bit surprised to see Højbjerg in there. I think he had a good tournament, but for me, it wasn't in. They were much better in there, to be honest. Yeah, I think all the ones that we mentioned, and also the likes of Rice, were also better than him for me. Again, not to take anything away from him, I like him as a player. He's a good player, but for me, not good enough a player of the tournament. I think Damsgaard had more of an effect on the team in that midfield, to be honest. Yeah. I think, with regard to who was the other one you said? It was
Højbjerg.
Obviously, Højbjerg and the other Lukaku. Yeah, Lukaku again. Like, I think he had a good tournament, but not good enough, really. Yeah, it was. It's a hard one. I can see why they put Lukaku in there, but for me, they were definitely better in the tournament. I think he had a great group stage, but didn't do enough in the knockout, really, for me. Obviously, he got that penalty against Italy, but it was never a penalty anyway for me, that. And I think, I'd probably have put Kane in there ahead of Lukaku, really, because at the end of the day, the business end is the knockout, isn't it? That's when you really want to kind of do well, and he didn't do well enough for me in the kind of knockouts, really.
Yeah, I think for me, Lukaku struggled to get my first three choice at centre forward role. So, Schick, Kane, and Ronaldo probably the three I'd go with. Ronaldo dragged Portugal through again in the end. Schick, I don't want to say dragged the Czech Republic through, but 5 goals and a bang average side at any tournament. Obviously, Kane just got better and better as the tournament went on. Just going to have a quick look at the other teams that people have suggested. So, for the most part, people have agreed. I think the main difference is it's a toss-up between Pickford and Donnarumma. A few mentions for Bonucci. There's a couple of mentions of Zinchenko. Again, he had a fantastic tournament. Gerson's has got a mention. For the most part, most of the teams are along the same nature. So I think there's always been an argument over a couple in the but for the most part, they were right. That couple more comments before we move on to the questions part of the show. So first one is from Dan Green. Bundesliga is underrated. Lots of Bundesliga show fans in the comments. The second best show on the channel to the League One show. Thank you, Dan. I think
it doesn't say a lot about us, does it? Considering there's only 2 on the channel. Don't tell Rory about that. Don't tell Rory about that one. That's for
sure. People might think it'd be the third 2, Max. Obviously, we've got the League 2 show coming in. Don't forget about that one. Obviously, I'll be putting my heart and soul into that one with Dale being in there. So, don't forget about that one. There's one more comment about the team of the tournament before we move on to the questions. So, I agree with most of the teams in the comments. And the one that your OTB editors have gone with. But what about Locatelli? Nobody mentioned him. Locatelli did have a good tournament, but he barely featured. For some reason, barely featured after the group stage mark. Do you think Locatelli is one that's really unlucky to be missing out?
Not really, no, because again, he didn't play enough games in the knockouts. You can't be coming off I think in the group stage, he was arguably my player of the tournament along with Berardi, but it was quite an interesting tactical switch really from Mancini, wasn't it? Because I think Berardi and Locatelli, I don't think they started a single game in the knockout, and I think both of us were really talking them up in the group stage. I thought they were brilliant. I mean, I was a little bit surprised at the time, but obviously Italy went on to win it, so no one can complain really at the end of the day.
Yeah, but in terms, like you said, it's an interesting tactical switch. Obviously, Locatelli and Berardi obviously made way for Verratti and Chiesa, so that was a big switch there. Chris, Bet Dave's feeling pretty smug with your comment there, Dan. Not really. No, I think as long as the channel as a whole is doing well and you're all enjoying the content, I'm happy enough with that. And then both shows, the entire channel is a gem. It's great to have both shows. Looking forward to more shows in the future. We've got them 2 coming back. Obviously, when does the Bundesliga start, Mark? Is it after?
It's going to be the 13th of August, actually. Yeah, so it's. I think it's the same night as the Premier League this year. So we've got a lot of stuff coming up for that. We've got a meeting next week to kind of decide what we're going to do and the changes we're going to make. So look out for that. We're going to do some previews and stuff like that. So it's good.
We've got plenty of great content coming. Obviously, Bundesliga's back, League 1, League 2, and obviously we're always working behind the scenes to see if we get anybody of note for the set piece. An email has bin sent to a guest to see if they want to come onto the show. So I could have said something else there, really huge giveaways to it might be, but watch this space anyway over the next few weeks. Obviously, we're going to have, with fans being allowed back at stadiums, I've got plans to, I'm going to watch in Rochdale again. I live quite close to FC United Stadium. I live quite close to Salford City Stadium as well, so there'll be plenty of match day vlogs for me to do. When Rochdale are away, I'm going to venture up to FC United and Salford City and watch them as well. So there'll be plenty of variety of content as well. So especially now they're allowed. Obviously, Mark's not allowed back in stadiums yet, but
Hopefully it's going to change soon.
Yeah, we're allowed back. So there's going to be plenty of great content to come. So don't worry about that. Right, so we're going to dive into the last question and answer session of the Euro 2020 final. So again, thank you to everybody that's got your questions in on Twitter. We really do appreciate it. I think we've covered off most of the stuff that's coming in the comments section anyway. So we'll get these done that come on Twitter. First question from John Fleming. What did you guys make of the way VAR was used at the tournament? To me, it seemed better than it would when it's used in club competition. What do you think of that one, Mark?
Yeah, to be honest, I always think it's a lot better in international tournaments and also on the continent as well. I think the Bundesliga really uses VAR well too, and I agree that it was very well used in this tournament as well. I think, to be honest, it's the Premier League that seems to be behind on the VAR now. I think most leagues have kind of got used to what it entails now, and how to deal with it the best way, and they seem to be quickening up the waiting time as well a lot. But I mean, in England, for some reason, they don't seem... I don't know whether it's the orders that are being given by the FA and stuff, but they just don't seem to use it well, do they? And they seem to... I think they overuse it a little bit as well. I think one of the things I liked about the refereeing in this tournament is that they didn't get involved with a lot of petty decisions and stuff. Like, no petty red cards. I mean, the only petty red card, I would say, was given by an English ref for the Swiss guy against Spain. I would say that was the only petty red card, in my view. I think, some people might disagree with me on that, but I think, the refereeing was good overall. And I'm glad that we're starting to see more flowing football again after probably 2 years of too much stop-start and too many soft penalties for me, really.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a dodgy red card in the group stage as well. I could be thinking of a completely different game. There's one in the group stage where it was like a follow-through on attack, which couldn't be helped at all, and you're given a red card, but I can't remember which game it was. I also thought the Ampadu one for Wales against Italy was a bit of a soft one as well. Yeah. But it's one of the things. I think the Premier League can learn a lot from this tournament. One, from the officiating as a whole, which I thought was fantastic for the most part, and two, its use of VAR. But obviously the Premier League like to try and do the things their own way, don't they? And they don't make absolute balls up of it, don't they? So we've got that to look forward to again in a few weeks, haven't we? Of people like Mike Dean trying to make the game about themselves, and Michael Oliver thinking he's an absolute big time Charlie of a referee. So we've got that to look forward to, haven't we, again in a few weeks.
We have.
Chris Saunders question. So, which player did you know nothing about before the tournament, but they impressed you the most? I think we're probably going to have the same answer here, Mark, based on what we said already. But who would you go with on that one?
Yeah, I mean, obviously Damsgaard, as I've mentioned, definitely. Myler as well, I would say. Yeah, he's another one. I didn't know about him before the tournament. Even though I follow Atalanta, he wasn't one of the players that really stood out for me for Atalanta during their good couple of years in the big time. I think the other one was probably Spinazzola as well. I didn't know him before the tournament. Yeah, I think he's had quite an interesting career, actually, Spinazzola. I think he's only played I think even with this tournament, he's only on 17 caps for Italy, and he's had a really, really injury-plagued career. But obviously, it's a pity because he could have been probably one of the top left backs in the world, I would imagine, judging on the back of this tournament, if he could have stayed injury-free. But I would say those three, really, yeah.
Yeah, for me, Damsgaard's the far away the one for me, and then Mailer. Anything after that, I think again, Spitzol's probably another one. But I think, just to kind of make it about England again, I think Calvin Phillips as well. So I've not really followed Leeds that much since obviously Bielsa getting all the hype when in the Championship, and I didn't see much of them while in the Premier League for whatever reason. I didn't catch many of their games, but I was really impressed with Phillips, and he was one that he's gone up tenfold in my estimation, and he should be a fixture at England squad for quite a few years to come. Ben Morris, who was the best young player of the tournament in your opinion?
Yeah, I mean, there were a lot of good young players in the tournament. Yeah, I would say Myler has to be considered. But I think, is he actually that young, though? I think he's still quite young, but he's not under 21. Yeah, Chiesa's also quite young, but again, I'm not sure whether he would fit in with that number. But I would say Pedri. It's probably got to be Pedri, really, if you're going for like under 21 players. Yeah, I mean, he was just. But yeah, a lot of the best players in the tournament were young players. Like, I mean, it was a great tournament for young players, really. I think maybe not really young, but players like under 25, I thought were outstanding, really, in the tournament. And I think, there's a lot of new names. I would imagine a lot of the big Premier League clubs and PSG probably are like really getting their kind of scouts out now, trying to get a deal done for some of those guys, I would imagine.
Yeah, I think so. One player I should mention, 19 years of age, obviously. We won't go into it too much. I think every other news outlet's kind of done it and gone into a lot of detail over it, but we purely want to talk about football tonight, and that's obviously Bukayo Saka. Obviously, him, Rashford and Sancho being the victims of horrendous racial abuse following that final. But I think Saka should be applauded, one, for the performance he put in throughout the whole tournament, because every time he did get onto the pitch, he did make a difference. He did play really well for England, and for also having the balls to step up and take that fifth penalty, I think for a 19-year-old to be willing to take on that responsibility does deserve applauding. And those who sit behind the keyboard sending messages and making memes and silly images, I think they're the ones who really need to take a look at themselves and question what they're all about. But yeah, Saka had a great tournament for me and definitely deserves a mention. Dan Green's put, what do you guys make of the tournament taking a place across the continent instead of one country, and do you buy into the theory that it gave England unfair advantage? But yeah, what did you make of that, Mark, the tournament being scattered across Europe?
Yeah, I think the only pity was the fact that it came during the Corona time, so a lot of I think the stadium in Munich only had like 14,000 in there or something. It looked more like a ghost town, really. I think it would have been really, really good if it was before the Corona time. I think because obviously you'd have had really. I don't really buy into all like gave home advantage, because there's always a team with home advantage anyway. So I think that was just like people bitter about England's success, really. I didn't really quite see the logic in that argument, I think it's like, okay, I understand that England weren't supposed to be the host, but there were other teams as well that played a lot of games. Like Italy played all their group games in Rome as well. Do you know what I mean? So, I mean, yeah, it is an advantage, but I think I don't think it's like, it's nothing unfair, You've got to see it like almost that England were kind of like the host of this tournament in a way, I guess, really.
Yeah, what kind of annoyed me about the England thing was, like I said, Italy played a lot of their games in Rome. Denmark had a lot of their games, Copenhagen, up until the group's ending. That made a huge difference to them, I feel, getting out of that group. Obviously, everything that happened with Eriksen, I don't want to sound harsh, but I can't feel their games were saying Baku, for example. Would they have got out of that group under the circumstances? It's tough to say. Obviously, we'll never know, but Modric came up in the build to the tournament saying England had unfair advantage, and it's like every tournament has a host. France won the World Cup in 1998 playing for their home country. I didn't see any conspiracy theorists then spouting crap about it being fixed for them. Like it's one of the things that's the way the draw worked, and England were just fortunate to be able to play all their games at Wembley. Say playing in Rome against Ukraine didn't make a blind bit of difference. It was probably one of our best performances of the tournament from an attacking point of view. So for me, it didn't really make a difference there. In terms of taking the place across the continent, like Mark said, I might have had a different opinion of it if the stadiums were full, but I think teams like Wales and obviously Turkey not as far to travel, but Wales having to flop themselves over to Baku to go to Rome and back to Baku and whatnot. I just didn't think. I just feel like it's unfair on some teams who had to travel all that way and then have to. If they'd have been based in Baku for all three games, then fair enough. But having to clock up so many miles to a place like Baku, or teams coming from, say, like Russia, having to venture quite. Obviously, Russia's quite out of the way as well, isn't it? So I weren't a fan of it from that point of view. I think if they're going to do something like that in the future, I think it's like Wales, for example. Take Wales as an example. They should be playing all three of their games in Baku and not having to travel in between all the time. That's my opinion anyway. Chris Saunders is kind of tagged on the end of that question. Do you think it would be possible to do the same thing with a World Cup in the future? Sorry, hiccup there. Same thing with the World Cup in the future. I think based on the point I just made, I don't think the setup would work for a World Cup again, unless you're going to start putting, say, like England, Australia, I don't know, Senegal and Argentina all grouped from the same group. Unless you're going to play all the games at USA, Canada, and all three games are played in that same area, it doesn't work. Because if you do it like the European format, you could have England playing, say, Buenos Aires one week, and then possibly having to flog themselves over to Cairo the week after, then have to go down to possibly Sydney for a quarter final. It just wouldn't work, I think, for a World Cup. And I think it was nice to trial it for one tournament, but I wouldn't be a fan of it coming back in the future. What do you think of it for a World Cup, Mark?
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, but I think the World Cup 2026, the one after the Qatar, is actually planned to be in Mexico, USA, and Canada. I mean, I don't know if you guys know your geography, but I mean that's a massive difference between, say, like Mexico City and like Montreal, for example. I mean that's probably like a 6 to 7 hour flight, I would imagine. So, I mean, they are doing it over three countries. I was never really a big fan of that, to be honest. And I agree with you, Dave. I think it was nice as a one-off to try it, I wouldn't say it was a failure because there were good points, as you say, having like Denmark's fans behind them, I mean, obviously they had to go through a bidding process to have the chance to host the games as well. So it wasn't just like it was randomly chosen. But I think I agree that having some of the games in Baku it's too far, Baku, it's an absolute trek out there. It's like way out towards like the Middle East, like south, kind of like South Russia and things. Is way too far away, and it's just, I think, again, it was a case of they probably paid enough money to host games, and also I didn't see the point in them having games because they weren't even in the tournament as well, I mean, at the end of the day, if you're going to have a team hosting some games, you've got to have them in the tournament as well. Do you know what I mean? So I think, for me, I wouldn't like to see it again. Really. It'd be interesting to see how the World Cup 2026 works out in Mexico, USA, and Canada. But I think, I would be happier to go back to having tournaments in one, maximum two host countries again in the future, really.
Yeah, it's a good point you made about Baku there, Matt, but obviously typical when it comes to UEFA and FIFA money talks at the end of the day, done it? And obviously they got that Europa League final when it was Arsenal against Chelsea the other year, and that was an absolute shambles as well, weren't it? So I won't be a fan of seeing games in Baku again in the near future. Like I said, that Mexico, USA, Canada World Cup will be very interesting because, like I said, when you look at it on a globe, it eclipses Europe, done it for by an absolute country mile. So if you play in southern Mexico, then you're expected to flog yourself to North Canada. It's good. It's going to take a huge monumental effort, especially say the quick turnaround in games. You have to play every 4 days, for example. But I think the World Cup's scattered about a little bit more in it. So, but still, it's going to be a big ask in it. So. It's a difficult one to answer that. But I will want to see it more again in the future. Last question from Matteo. So which emerging players do you want to see get moves to big clubs because of how good they were at Euro 2020? I think we kind of covered this already, Mark, but there's players who might already be at big clubs who have merged, but is there anyone that you think is going to get that big move over the summer?
Yeah, I definitely think Myler will get a move from Atalanta. I think obviously Atalanta's a great club, I think Goossens also will probably get a move from Atalanta. I mean, I can't imagine that they're going to be able. I think there's already in the Bundesliga news, there's already a couple of teams sniffing around him. I think Dortmund were linked with him. Obviously, Bayern are never far away for those kind of players, are they? It's incredible because he's never actually played in Germany. Incredibly, I mean, I think he started his career in the Netherlands because he was rejected from. The German youth, I think he was at Mönchengladbach, and he was rejected from them. Then he went to Vitesse Arnhem, and then he ended up at Atalanta. So he's had a crazy career, really. But I wouldn't be surprised to see him get snapped up because I just don't think Atalanta can kind of they've not got the financial resources to keep this level of player. I would also imagine Damsgaard as well. I definitely think someone will come in for him, whether it's a big Italian club or. I think he'd be suited to playing in the Premier League, to be honest, as well.
Yeah, I think there's one player we've not mentioned. I'm not going to keep trying over the same ground with it, but I think Paul put him in his team of the tournament. It was Paul or David. I'm pretty certain it was Paul. Denzel Dumfries. He's currently at PSV and obviously the Dutch league again falls into that Farmers League bracket, doesn't it? Of it not being very competitive, and it's the same few teams that win it every year. But I think you could see somebody take a gamble on Dumfries because the game is evolving and people love having an attacking wing back. So Gersons, Mailer, Dumfries, do fall into that category. And yeah, I won't be surprised if you see him get a move as well, because he was absolutely incredible for Holland until they made their premature exit in the last 16. But yeah, that's everything in terms of Twitter covered. And so we've gone through the questions that have come up as and when they've been in the group, the live chat. So thank you very much, everyone, for getting your questions in again, and getting involved on the live chat again. Very much appreciated. In terms of video front, we might be a bit quiet now for the next few weeks until the new season starts. We'll take a bit of a end of season break ourselves. I know I've mentioned about the video that I'll be doing tomorrow, but that'll be out start of next week, I imagine. So it'll be a video that does require editing, which we're not used to on this one, because we do tend to do most stuff live, don't we? So yeah, we'll make sure that's worthwhile for you guys watching. So make sure you check that out, especially if you guys are a bit like what's COVID, like post-COVID football going to look like. That will be covered in the video as well, so I'll take a look at that for you. So yeah, make sure you keep an eye out on that next week. But in the meantime, the usual really. If you check out the website otvfootball.net, as the new season gets closer, we're getting the articles back out regularly again. There'll be a lot of season previews and whatnot, so make sure you check that out. Also, make sure you follow us over at Twitter at OverTheBarFB. And also make sure you check out the YouTube URL, youtube.com/OverTheBarFB. Just make sure while you do drop us a subscribe and click the bell icon to be notified of all our latest videos. And keep coming back and keep supporting the channel. Again, we always do really appreciate that. But yeah, on behalf of me and Mark and everyone at Over the Bar, thank you very much for your support during the season and the tournament. And we'll see you all again in the next few weeks.
Cheers, guys.